Hello and welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kircha. Coming up in today's newscast, Netanyahu and Gantz hold landmark meetings at the president's residence.
A new UN report blasts the growing trend of anti-Semitism worldwide.
And get ready to cheer as Israeli athletes prepare for the Tokyo 2020 Olympics.
President Rivlin has finally finished his post-election party consultations, but no clear answer as to who can build a coalition is yet within grasp. The one thing that Rivlin knows for sure is that Israelis do not want a third round of elections, while they do want a unity government.
So to that end, the president has invited both Prime Minister Netanyahu and rival Benny Gantz, as the heads of the two largest parties, to his Jerusalem residence for a private meeting. And the two have already had a 2-hour sit-down on Monday night, which was closed to the press. But Rivlin explains that the two leaders took so-called significant strides towards the creation of a unity government.
That's right. He says that the first challenge, of course, is building a channel of direct dialogue out of trust between the two sides, which is in part why the meeting was closed to the press. Then to further the dialogue, the Likud and the blue and white parties will have their negotiating teams meet on Tuesday, followed by another private meeting between the party leaders on Wednesday.
But despite the supposedly significant strides, critics on both sides accuse the other of not being serious about the talks. For one, Gantz and Yisrael Beitenu leader Avigdor Lieberman met on Monday evening after Lieberman said that he would refuse to endorse either party before a unity is established. And just ahead of the landmark meeting, Netanyahu reassured the right-wing and religious bloc that he still represents them and will take them all into the next coalition.
But blue and white officials, on the other hand, reiterate that the prime minister knows that they won't sit with the right wings Litzman and Smotrich, while Netanyahu is a cheat who's pushing for third elections. And similarly, the ultra-Orthodox said that they would not sit with Lieberman or blue and white's number 2, Yair Lapid. Also, Netanyahu reportedly told his supporters that he expects both the first and second attempts at forming a coalition to fail, allowing whoever is chosen the third time around to succeed, as the nation will be desperate to avoid another voting cycle.
Deeper into the coalition talks, but from the ultra-Orthodox perspective, we have Rabbi Dov Halbertal, the former head of the Office of the Chief Rabbi of Israel. Thanks for joining us. Now, you know, Netanyahu is pushing for a unity government that will include both the Haredim, the religious, and the blue and white party. But is that even feasible?
Yeah, why not? Why not? You have to know that for the religious, even the ultra-Orthodox, there is no problem to be even with the Arabs. I mean, not moral problem, not a religious problem, only a practical problem. There's no, we can sit with everybody.
Well,
we need budgets,
right,
that's all.
But polls have come out saying that about 68%, almost 70% of the Israeli public wants a more secular government, right? So the question is, if there is a compromise that can be made between Kahol and Lavan, the blue and white party, and the religious parties, especially when it comes to issues like civil marriage, public transportation on Shabbat, etc.
Military enlistment, yeah.
Military enlistment.
No, they will not accept. I mean, there can be a good idea to solve everything that's happening today. What's the idea? I don't know if people know it. The idea is, you know, the blue and white, they have 44 mandates, and the ultra-Orthodox have 17. Let's combine them together and come to a coalition. The blue and, you know, both. Kahol Lavan and the
Why not?
Why not? So there will not be
they would compromise on, for example, civil marriage. They would never compromise on that issue?
Then no. If they will have a political power, they will never compromise in it. If they will have a power. If they will be out of the power, like you said before, that maybe a lot of the people here want it, the non-religious. So maybe there will be, I'm not sure even then, but maybe there will be, because you have to know that very many people here in Israel are traditional. They know to appreciate the religious marriage.
But I think one of the biggest issues for the secular, who are, you know, the 69%, is that the religious aspect is legislated. So, for example, with driving and public transportation on the Shabbat, is that not something that could be compromised on, where the religious could simply not ride on the bus?
And let everybody else do what they want.
No, I don't see. Maybe it can be a very, can be a small compromise. Maybe in some very specific places, and that, but not altogether. Because it's not. It doesn't disturb me that there is a transportation here in Tel Aviv. I'm not living here. But it disturbs me as a Jew, as a part of a citizen in a Jewish state.
But if you're seeing 70% of the Jewish population here saying, actually, we want public transportation on weekends, and we want the ultra-Orthodox to be drafted into the military, and we want civil marriage, then, I mean, they're Jews as well, right? So where do they fall?
There is a big difference. It has to be understood. A big difference in between, drafting to the army. That means that they want me to be... And it will never be in the ultra-Orthodox. It will never be, because that hurts the DNA of the ultra-Orthodox.
Why not?
But
Why not? Why should other Jews
transportation is another
to...
issue. It's a different issue. Why not what?
Why would the seculars join while the Haredim don't?
That's a big issue. That's a big question.
We
can discuss it in 1 hour. In short. The question is, what is the real burden here in the state of Israel and altogether to the Jewish people all over the world? What is the real burden? The non-religious people see that it's the army, and they are right. The army is a very big and very severe burden, and it's a question of life and death and everything on one end. On the other end, the ultra-Orthodox, they think and they believe it. In seriously, it's not, that the main burden here is to keep the Jewish identity of the Jewish people here in Israel and altogether in all over the world. Keeping the Jewish identity means in only one way, sitting in the yeshivot and studying, not going to the army. Going to the army means ruining the yeshiva world.
All right, well, I think that the hope here is that there will be a unity that is able to kind of incorporate the desires of every Jew in this country, whether or not they're Orthodox or secular. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Other news, the United Nations has just published a landmark interim report on freedom of religion and belief, and the findings are unprecedented.
That's because not only does the report detail an alarming growth of anti-Semitism worldwide, it also casts a very critical shadow on the international BDS, or Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement.
To begin, the author of the report, Ahmed Shahid, writes that he's alarmed by the growing use of anti-Semitic tropes by white supremacists and radical Islamist groups, saying that both utilize slogans, images, stereotypes, and conspiracy theories meant to incite violence, hostility, and discrimination against Jews.
Additionally, the report warns that anti-Semitism is toxic to democracy and that if left unchecked, it poses a risk not only to Jews but to other minority groups. And as for BDS, however, while Shahid notes that international boycotts are considered legitimate political expressions, he explains that the BDS movement specifically draws upon anti-Semitic tropes, rejects the right of Israel to exist, advocates discrimination against Jewish individuals because of their religion, and should be condemned.
Similarly, Shahid calls out so-called left-wing anti-Semitism, which is typically employed by supposed anti-racists and anti-imperialists who conflate Zionism, or Jewish self-determination, with racism. Now, the report is urging nations to identify, document, and prohibit incidents of anti-Semitic hate. An Israeli ambassador to the UN, Dani Danon, is welcoming the so-called change in attitude towards Israel in the world body.
Meanwhile, a new Pew Research survey researching attitudes towards the United Nations has just found that Israelis have the most critical views of the international body, with at least 69% of respondents in Israel saying they see the UN unfavorably. Israel has long alleged that the UN is biased against the Jewish state. 300,000
youth at risk, and the Shanthi House organization has been on a mission to change those numbers by providing homes to over 2,500 homeless and at-risk youth a year.
And Nile TV's Emmanuel Kadosh went to the Shanthi House located in Jaffa to learn more about their programs and to meet some of the kids living there.
My childhood, I lived in Israel. It was a very hard childhood. It was an abused childhood, violence, sex abuse, a neglected childhood. I don't think I even remember one hug. I said thank you for my childhood, because if I didn't have the effect of this childhood, I couldn't have done and do what I do of being the founder of this organization.
The Shanthi House Association serves as an alternative family for homeless and at-risk youth from all sectors of the population, providing them physical, emotional, and educational needs in a family atmosphere. No matter their religion, race, gender, or nationality, the Shanthi House offers immediate shelter 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
In the end of the army, I got pregnant, not something planned. I was a lonely soldier in Israel. You know, when you don't have a family, you call the lonely soldier. I rented an apartment in Neve Tzedek, Shabazi neighborhood in Tel Aviv. And it was the beginning of Shanthi House. It was the beginning of me seeking for a family. I found out that sometimes people that are not your family are more family than your own family. And I started by picking vegetables in the market in Tel Aviv from the streets and making food for, you know, homeless people in the streets.
In Israel, there are over 330,000 youth at risk, 14,000 of them living on the streets and in immediate danger. The Shanthi House is here to help change those alarmingly high numbers by providing over 116,000 hot meals every year. And in total, since its establishment back in 1984, have taken care of more than 54,000 youth in immediate danger.
היו לי כמה בעיות בבית, היו לי כמה דברים, היו לי כמה בעיות, הייתי ברחובות, ואז הגעתי לפה. הייתי בין 3 ל4 חודשים ברחוב.
Shanthi House developed to be what it is from the needs of the streets. The things that make Beta Shanti very, very different, that when you go inside, you already feel it. You don't feel that you came to an institution, you don't feel that you come to an hostel or a boarding school, you feel that you come to a home.
הדבר שאני הכי שמח זה שיש לי איפה לישון ואיפה לקום בבוקר, כי זה הבסיס. יש לי בית. יש לי בית שאני יכול לחזור אליו, אני יכול להזמין אליו חברים, אני יכול לספר על הבית שלי, יש מי שדואג לי, מי ששואל אותי איך אני מרגיש, וזה דברים שלא היו לי הרבה זמן.
It doesn't matter if you come for a few hours, or you're coming for a few months, or coming for a few years. You cannot be here if you don't want to be here. You cannot force anybody to get help if he doesn't seek for help or wants help. Most of the group of more than 2,000 children a year are coming only for a few hours, a few days, and we put them back home because they didn't really want to run away from home. This is children at risk. The other ones that live here from few months till few years are children in danger of life. They have no other choice. If they will not be here, there was sex abuse, violent abuse, neglected by the parents. 80% of the children that live long term, their parents don't want them.
אני לא בקשר עם ההורים שלי, בכלל. 3 שנים אני נמצא בשנתי. החלום שלי זה לעשות מוזיקה, וזה מה שאני הולך לעשות. אני מצפה שתהיה לי משפחה, שאני אהיה האבא הכי מושלם בעולם, שיהיו לי 2 ילדים, אישה, אולי איזה כלב 2, אבל גדולים, לא קטנים. בעצם כל מה שלא היה לי, יהיה לילדים שלי. אם אתם לא יכולים להיות בבית, או שקשה לכם בבית, תדעו שהדלתות פה תמיד פתוחות, ושאתם מוזמנים לקבל חיבוק חם. ממני במיוחד.
All right, now let's switch gears a little bit and come more towards internal Israeli news.
Yeah, we don't often cover some of the more hyper-local news that takes place in Israel because we have an international audience, but today ILTV's Shanna Fold is here with us. What's the first story?
Okay, so I just want to say that a couple of these stories are pretty heavy, and they hit close to home. Local news hits close to home, but we are going to end with something sweet. So let me get started by saying that over the weekend, a 20-year-old soldier here lost his life. He was actually electrocuted in something called an ornamental pool. He was walking out of a bar in North Tel Aviv with some friends, and there was a little pool, one of those ones that are there for decor. They're shallow water. They have plants and flowers.
Why did he go into it? Was there any sign there?
So there was a small sign, and I guess that he missed it, and he actually was electrocuted and died. But there was another case some months back of a 5-year-old girl who also fell in and got shocked, but no investigation was open there and no charges were filed.
Well, sadly, this is not the only terrible news that you have for us today, right?
Yeah,
there's another.
I have one more before I get to the fun one. So there was a bus that was driving in Beitar Illit, which is a big city in the West Bank.
Sure, yeah, we have the video here.
If you could take a look at this video, the driver was putting in a headpiece when he lost control of the vehicle, went up onto the curb, and the only thing that stopped him was a bus that was in that stop. A 15-year-old girl just came back from being unconscious. She was severely injured, but at least no one died.
I mean, this is just crazy that they have this footage.
It's harrowing.
9 were injured.
9 injured. I cannot even imagine how the driver is feeling as well right now. Anyhow, give us something happy, please.
Okay, the happy thing. So this morning I came in and my producer made me aware of this anime video. Now this is just an example of how crazy the Israeli election season has been. That there
It's
needs
melodramatic at best, yeah.
larger than life. That
You're
there
right.
needs to be an anime, which is Japanese illustrations played with music scores, and there is an epic fight between PM Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman. And there's just so much fun stuff in there, and it all ends with a drop of the vote into a ballot box.
Oh gosh.
Oh, wow.
Well, we need to see a
We
clip.
need to hear some
let's,
sound
let's
on
go
this.
into
Come
this clip
on.
here.
I wish that we could understand the lyrics. But I don't know who's singing there. Or
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, and as an anime fan, I can attest to the fact that this is like super accurate to the way an intro in a typical anime is done, and it's just
absolutely.
Well, the Israeli elections have made it to Japan. Thanks so much for joining us, Shanna.
Shanna, thank you. All right.
Anyhow, as traffic continues to get worse in Tel Aviv, more and more Israelis are turning to alternative modes of transportation. Take a look. There's a new trend taking over Tel Aviv, and there's no way to escape it. Electric scooters. Birds, Limes, Corky Nets, Hinokim. These are the brands that are responsible for changing public transportation for Israelis. Why wait for a bus that you can't be sure is going to arrive on time when you can just quickly rent an electric scooter and make it to your destination in much less time? There's no need to worry about parking. E-scooters are environmentally friendly, and some say they're reducing cars in the city because Israelis now have a faster alternative of traveling. But are e-scooters really worth it? From 2014 to 2018, 97 people have been killed in accidents involving electric scooters and bicycles. And hundreds more have been injured, with 15 people being sent to the hospital during the first 3 months of 2019 for scooter-related injuries. And since the beginning of 2019, 9,000 tickets have been issued to electric scooter and bike users. It's a $70 penalty if you're caught riding on the sidewalk. So here's our question. Is riding an electric scooter really worth it?
Now, you may not know it, but despite all the English spoken in the country, Israel has a major deficit of English teachers.
Well, to combat the growing shortage, the Israeli Education Ministry is now pairing up with 6 universities and colleges to teach the next generation of English teachers.
That's right, and here to tell us all about it is the head of the English department at the Gordon College of Education in Haifa, Tami Aviad-Levitsky. Tami, so what can you tell us about the program? You know, what's unique about it?
Okay, so the program is a unique program that the Ministry of Education initiated for native speakers of English or near-native speakers of English who already have an academic degree and seek to explore or pursue a career as English teachers in Israel.
And obviously today, knowing English, especially in Israel, is more important than ever. Can you talk to us about why that is and what specifically Gordon teaches to kind of help prepare their students to teach in English?
Okay, so we obviously know that English is an international language still.
Right.
And it is important in all fields of work later on in life. And even when you travel abroad, you need to be able to speak English to people around you, or when you meet people in Israel who come from abroad and you want to talk to them.
There's so many tourists here.
Right. And unfortunately, it has been shown that the level of English of our students is not satisfactory. Their level of English when they apply for academic institutions, and when they travel abroad, they keep saying that what bothers them is that they don't know English well enough in order to communicate. So yeah, so English
Which
is very important.
Which is surprising because you hear so many Israelis who speak English, but it really comes down to the kind of that level and how, if you can actually, you're proficient in working beyond just speaking to the person next to you. So what are you guys teaching specifically that stands out?
Okay, so the program is, Gordon College is putting a lot of emphasis on specifically the English department, we teach linguistics and literature and culture, which are more the specialty or the discipline itself.
Right.
In addition, we put a lot of emphasis on educational studies. So we teach sociology of education and educational psychology and adolescent psychology. And in addition, we think that without practice, our students cannot become teachers. So we put a lot of emphasis in practice in school and didactics. Some emphasis is put on teaching English to students with learning disabilities or learning challenges. And Gordon College specifically puts a lot of emphasis on incorporating technology, both in our courses and also designated courses of technology.
Which makes it a lot more fun.
Well, and Gordon was chosen specifically from the Education Ministry to kind of join this program?
Yeah, yes, we're one of the few colleges that were chosen this year to run this program.
So who's best suited for the program? I mean, if I want to become an English teacher, what do I have to do?
And how long is it? Is one of the bigger questions as well.
So I would assume that the two of you will be accepted because your English seems to be good enough. And yes, it is the audience that the candidates that we're looking for are native speakers or near native speakers of English. You need to pass a written exam and an oral exam, which you will obviously pass with flying colors.
Handle it.
Well, and so how much do people find work at the end of this program? Because that's what everybody wants to know.
Yeah.
Okay, and you also asked me how long the program is. The program for native or near native speakers with an academic degree is a 1-year program.
Wow.
And I believe that we've had this program for the last 2 years, and now we're starting the 3rd year. And I believe that most of the graduates of this specific program found a job unless they didn't want to.
Incredible.
One of the advantages is that the ministry over the last 2 years has helped those students who wanted to do this financially wise.
Wow,
so
they
that's also an
subsidize it.
advantage.
Yeah, well, and
cool.
I mean, there's such a need for English teachers here that it can't be that hard to find a job at the end of the day. But this is also an amazing opportunity
you find a job for sure.
For people who are looking, who live abroad, are considering immigrating to Israel, or just living here for a certain period of time.
This is a great
become
segue.
an English teacher. I know a lot of people who do that abroad. So, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining
Thank
us,
you for
Tammy. And I'm
welcoming me.
certainly going to check out the Gordon Academic College.
Thank
you so much. Well, the Israeli national baseball team has just qualified for the upcoming 2020 Olympics, and we're very excited.
Yeah, but this definitely isn't the first time that
It's
Israel
not.
has competed in the Olympics. So ILTV's Nittany Manson is here to give us a little sports history lesson.
Okay, so with Israel's national baseball team making the cut for the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, we thought it was important to take a look back at Israel's other big Olympic moments. Israel's National Olympic Committee was established in 1933 under what was then the British Mandate of Palestine. But it wasn't until 1952 that an Israeli delegation actually competed in the Games. All right, now fast forward to 1992, Israel's 10th Games, and Yael Arad brings home the first medal for Israel. This was in judo, and it was followed by bronze the next day, won by Oren Smadja. And from that 1992 Games, the next 5 consecutive ones saw bronze medal wins for Israel, until 2012 when that particular streak ended. But during this bronze streak, in 2004, Gal Friedman made all of Israel proud by winning the country's first, and so far only, gold medal in windsurfing. So to date, Israel holds 1 gold, 1 silver, and 7 bronze medals that they are extremely proud of. But why are all of Israel's medals in non-mainstream sports? Well, the fact that the country is so small compared to most other Olympic contenders means that individual sports are, let's face it, much more practical. And more than that, while we're on the topic of Israel's size, let's break that down a bit. At the last Summer Games in Rio, Israel sent 46 athletes. Now, the United States sent 558. While that may seem drastically larger, the population is 40 times larger than Israel, but the delegation is only 12 times larger. And Singapore, who's around the same size as Israel, sent 25 athletes. So for their size, Israel's 46, not too shabby. And it's no surprise that Israel has some high hopes for the upcoming 2020 Games in Tokyo. In addition to baseball, there's been a lot of talk surrounding Linoy Ashram, who will be competing in rhythmic gymnastics. And they're hinting that Sagi Muki, who just placed first in the Judo World Championship, could give the Holy Land its 2nd gold medal. And bringing us back to baseball, the last time that Israel had a whole team participate in the Olympic Games was all the way back in 1976 for soccer. So having the national baseball team make the cut, well, it's a pretty big deal.
All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy and comfortable with a low of 69 or 21 degrees Celsius. And then tomorrow will be sunny and warm with a high of 85 or 29 degrees Celsius.
And finally, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.51 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchuk. Thanks so much for watching.